Hey guys, so a few questions have been asked about supply and demand and the graphs and stuff like that. So let's just go over quickly, just making sure when we draw things, how we can explain it, everything like that. So I'll use this right here. I'm going to try to talk to you as much as possible, so I'll just stay with it. But we're going to go to Insert Drawing, and again, we have to start drawing things the way it needs to be done. Let's move that over for you. Excellent. So we should know by now that supply, the line itself, the S, always goes up. So we start at the bottom and we go up. I'm going to change this and I'll explain why so we know that. And we're always going to label it because when we don't label, we just don't remember because lines start moving around so much. So it'll be that one. I'm going to make our second one, which is our demand, and demand always goes down. And again, we'll draw this first and then we'll go over and talk about it. But you need to be able to draw it. It's very important. So I'll get that S1 and D1. Excellent. I'll come over here, save and close, and then I will readjust it for us quickly. There we go. Excellent. So if we think about this, in this graph here, the value over here is 0 at the bottom here, and let's say the value is 10 over here, and let's say the value over here is 10 to the right. We know this is always price. And down here, we know this is always quantity. Oops, if I could actually do it. I'm sorry. There we go. Quantity. Okay, so QS, QD, but when we're doing them together, it's just Q. So we know what it says is the price over here goes from 0 to 10, up like that. And over on quantity, we start in this corner at 0, and we go over to 10. So if we do the math here and we look at it, S1, as we start getting up like this, the price starts rising as it goes up towards the right, and the quantity starts rising. And we know from our universal law of supply is that as price goes up, quantity will go up. Therefore, I make more money. So as more people buy things, I want to sell it for higher so I make more. So that's what it looks like in graphical representation. For demand, the opposite is true. So I start up here, my price is very high and my quantity is very low. Because me as a consumer, someone that buys it, I'm not going to buy a ton of things if it's jacked up the price. But as you see, the graph falls down to the right because as the price goes down closer to whatever it is, 0, 1, I'm going to buy more. Because it goes back to that purchasing power thing that if I have more money, I will usually buy more. So if you lower the price, I technically have more purchasing power because I can buy more now. So that's why the arrows go down in demand and why they go up in supply. So you ask yourself then, wait a second, those definitely don't make sense because what D wants, supply doesn't want, and vice versa. So what it is then in economics is it's this middle part, also known as market equilibrium. So it's the happy place where they cross and where they meet. That's where the market really exists. Someone asked me, is it always perfectly like this in markets? No, it's definitely not. Sometimes, let's click on this and I'll show you what it could be. We could maybe make it like that a little bit, and maybe it's like that. There. And maybe let's make, you know what, let's make demand even more down. Okay, save and close there. Obviously, that's very different than the original X I made where it was nice and pretty going like that. The whole point is, though, supply is still going up towards the right. Demand is still going down towards the right. And if you notice from this graph as well, they're still crossing somewhere. And the cross point, market equilibrium, simply means that's the place where they can both exist. That's where they've said, hey, look, I'm willing to supply it at that price, and the consumer is willing to buy it at that price for that quantity. That's all it is, the supply and demand curve. So we have to know that. It's critical to know supply goes up to the right, demand goes down to the right, because if you get those confused, it just doesn't make sense. But the easy way for you to understand it is always think of it like this. In the corner of the L-shaped graphs, you always put 0 because this is the value of nothing, and then always put a high value up here in price and a high value here for quantity. And then just think about it. As you move this way, what happens if you draw a line, right? And as you move this way, what happens as you draw a line? If you think about it like that from a logical standpoint, it tends to make a lot more sense quickly, and then supply and demand really, really, really come to fruition, and you know what you're talking about. That's it. I don't want to confuse you on the shifting on that, because shifting would just imply the shift's going one way. So you should have a grasp on that. If not, I'll help you with that. But just remember why supply and demand go the way they do. That's really the kicker in that one. So any questions, send me a DM, remind, whatever you need, here for you.